You're listening to Turi Writer's She Said What podcast. I'm Turi, along with Marcy Persky. You might like to know what's in this podcast, and usually I have a whole list of things to tell you. Except this time, it's almost entirely why Marcy won't eat any dessert with cheese and peeing. I was thinking about your word situation where you don't like cheesecake because cheese is not cake.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what you make of cheese Danish. I mean, do you visualize the people from Denmark with, ooh?
I do not eat that.
Do you eat any kind of Danish? I mean, the poor Danes,
I eat
Danish?
like cherry Danish.
Okay, do you imagine Danes covered with cherries? Well, do you?
I don't imagine Danes at all, unless you're talking Great Danes.
Okay, so do you imagine a dog covered with cherries?
Yeah.
But you don't mind eating that?
I can.
It doesn't bother you.
But I do know that cherries do not grow on dogs.
I'm glad. I just wanted to clear that up. I just felt like...
No, I do not eat cheese Danish, ever. Anything that is baked with the word cheese in it, unless it's like cheeseburger, I don't eat it.
Okay.
Or grilled cheese. I eat grilled cheese.
I don't think I would have lived on this planet without becoming an axe murderer if it weren't for grilled cheese.
Frankie makes the best grilled cheese.
I probably would marry a guy who made really great grilled cheese.
He does. But then you would have to listen to the Grateful Dead all the time.
Oh, my God.
Which I had to learn. I've always been a 3-minute punk rocker. Like, get that song over with. Unless I was on air and needed to go outside for something.
Like the bathroom or a cigarette or...
Yeah, then it was like Inagata Davida or something, obscenely long.
If you've worked in an album rock radio, there are certain songs you hear and you just imagine the DJ on the toilet. There's no way around it. Inagata Davida.
In my case, my radio station had a built-in swimming pool.
Just go pee in the pool?
I would go out there, a pool.
You peed in the pool. You went out and peed in the radio station pool.
No, I just went and sat outside and put my feet in the water and went, I'm outside and I have a pool. I didn't pee in the pool.
I thought you were combining the bathroom song with the break song with the pool somehow.
Well, to you, it's the bathroom song, and to me, it's the pool song.
I see. Okay. I got a list. Don't Judas Me is one of them. Stairway to Heaven. You can definitely get a lot done in the bathroom to Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven. And like I said, Inagata Davida with the longest drum solo in the history of drum solos, I think.
Yep.
But it depended on your format, too, what you could throw on.
Well, I think everybody pees, so if they weren't going to send in a spare jock, you just... What did people do before there were adult disposable diapers? They just went through a lot of underwear, stayed home, wore a plastic bag? What did they do?
Spaghetti sauce jars.
All right, that's enough pee. So, I had to ask you about the cheese thing. It was important to me to know that about you. As my dear friend, I like to fill in the little blanks of things that I don't know about you. And you can know someone for years and then stumble across something that everybody else knows that you don't. It's kind of amazing. And it's always remarkable when people say, oh, I know everything about them. And I think, the hell you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have our little secrets, but now mine's out. I don't eat desserts with cheese in it.
Okay. Never, ever.
And I don't pee in swimming pools.
No, I don't do that either. Because actually, that was one of those, I have no idea if it's a Snopesable thing, but they used to tell kids, we put a chemical in the pool, and if you pee, we'll all see it and know it.
I saw a movie where that happened, and like they were peeing in the pool, and there's like big dark blue circles around everybody who was peeing.
I think that's special effect.
It was an Adam Sandler movie, so
yeah,
I'm sure
it has to
you didn't
be a
see
special effect. But, it really used to scare kids. And I know one kid who was just petrified after a swimming class because he thought he was going to be mocked. And he was so upset. I said, okay, just move down the lane. It was a little kid. How much is he going to pee? And I was the lifeguard. So I said, just move down the pool while you're peeing, and it won't be enough that anyone will see.
See, that's why I hate pools over lakes. I'll go in a lake and risk being eaten by barracudas or whatever before I'll go in a pool and swim in somebody's pee.
Well,
That just
you
doesn't
have your
sound healthy.
priorities. Like the fish don't pee in the lake.
But I've never seen a fish pee, and I have the same fish that I had when we started this podcast a million billion years ago. And I watch them all the time. And I've never seen a fish
You've never seen your goldfish lift a
pee in my
fin
tank.
against the little plastic plant in there. The goldfish never does one of those.
It goes behind the plant.
It's a stealth peer, your goldfish.
Like my husband who goes behind the giant truck.
Is that I stayed with some friends of my then boyfriend many, many, many years ago. I was living in LA and working in LA, possibly for the worst management of a radio station ever. I had to park Hollywood in those days. Let me just back up. Have you seen there's an online thing called the Soft White Underbelly? It's this guy who basically films meth heads and hookers, and he's even happier if
Ooh,
he can get like a 3 for a transgender meth head hooker. So
I have a new hobby now. Thank you.
where they all worked was right by the Motown building where the radio station was. It was kind of the beginning of their stroll. It was not a
Yeah.
safe area. And I begged to be allowed to park in the building, and the building management would have said yes, but the world's worst radio management said no. So I had a bad experience actually not at the Motown building, but coming home from the late night shift. After that happened, I needed a place to stay. So my then boyfriend arranged for me to stay with some friends of his on an air mattress in their spare room. It was explained to me the rules of the house that the husband went out every morning and peed against the fence, and that I might see him peeing against the fence, which was right outside the room where I was staying. And I shouldn't make a fuss over it because that's what he liked to do, was get up every morning and pee against the fence. And also, apparently, they were having some party one time, and I always brought food to share, but apparently their food was not to be shared. And I had some of their hummus, and that was it. They kicked me out. They were odd anyway. They were into a peculiar religion, which certain people who jump up and down on Oprah's couches
Ouch.
also practice. So
It's not a religion. But anyway,
when they figured out they couldn't convert me, they kind of lost interest, and so I got out of there pretty fast.
well, all the boys out here pee outside. The boys never pee inside. It doesn't matter. It can be 80 below zero, and boys are outside peeing just because my husband has decided that it takes too much water to flush the toilet.
Oh, well, at least there's some logic.
Yeah, I guess.
There's some logic.
But
This guy,
he
this
finally
yeah.
goes behind the truck. He finally just doesn't like whip it out on the deck and go like he used to.
I mean,
Because I
that would,
reminded him
yeah,
that he has a daughter who lives right around the corner,
yeah,
an adult daughter.
yeah.
But
You would like to lift her
and
standards so that she doesn't pick a guy who just pees off balconies and wherever the heck he wants to. But now your husband has taught him to pee wherever he wants.
that's true. But boys can kind of do that unless they're in Times Square or something, which probably people are peeing right in Times Square right now
Yeah, probably they're listening
in
to
a very
this
public place.
and peeing. That's why Times Square smells the way it does, among the other smells that are so pleasant about Times Square. So now that I'm,
Back in the 80s,
yeah,
before we change the subject from
yes,
peeing,
yes,
back in the 80s, I had a friend who they never flushed their toilet
ugh,
as long as it's pee. But every time I went in their house, I could smell pee.
ugh.
That's all I have to say.
That well, if you live in a, this was the thing when California first started going through drought and people had those 10-gallon flush toilets.
Yeah,
You would see the sign in everybody's bathroom. Don't flush every time you pee. What would happen is this was for people who were lucky enough to have two bathrooms. Then you only had to deal with your own pee. You don't want to deal with anybody else's pee. Other people's pee always smells worse than your pee.
that's true. My pee smells like roses. Have you ever went into a bathroom and somebody like peed on the seat?
Oh, yeah.
Since we're doing a whole show on
Oh, yeah.
pee now.
Yes, it happens in airports all the time. And you're thinking, look, they put that paper there for a reason. If you're really that phobic about sitting on the toilet seat, put the damn paper down. But no, they just hover and pee all over the seat. So the next person gets a lovely surprise. You have to. It's changed the whole process of peeing in a airport bathroom now. You walk in and you have to like get your flashlight out practically and look to make sure there's nothing hidden.
I pee standing up, not in the men's room, but I learned how to not pee on myself. If I'm out in the forest and I have to pee, yes, I pee all over myself.
So are you that
Let's talk
person?
about something
Are
different.
you that person who pees all over the seat in the airport? Are you she?
No, I clean it if I pee. If I see a drop of pee. But I hate people that leave pee on the seat.
Good.
That's just nasty.
It is, and it's rude.
Everything is nasty today.
It's rude. This is the nastiest podcast we've ever done, I think.
We've never denied that this is immature talk for mature listeners only.
That's right. That's what we are.
I don't have anything to say about poop, by the way.
I'm delighted to hear that. Can I just ask what it is with people you give free stuff to? They beg and they plead for your free stuff on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or whatever it is. And they want to make sure they're the first person, the only person. And then like for 3 days, whatever it is, just sits there. I'm out of patience with those people. I've started, I have a whole system for dealing with them now.
Well, you tell them, you take their credit card number, you tell them it's free, but you're going to charge for every single day that
it sits on your porch.
House. It's free. You have 24 hours. Then I'm going to charge you for every day that it sits here.
There's your idea for Shark Tank. Actually, I usually just line people up if it's a sought after item, and I say, someone's in front of you. If they don't come by 5, I will get in touch with you. And I tell the next person, someone's in front of you. If they don't come by 7, and I do it like that. But in this case, this was the only person who wanted it, and they've been really adamant about wanting it, and they just don't show up. And I don't know how they live in the world like that, behaving like that.
Maybe they have COVID.
No, they keep saying they're coming. They don't say I can't come, I have COVID, because that's a great excuse, and then I would back off.
That is a great excuse.
Yeah, even now.
Thanks for listening to Turi Writers' She Said What podcast. We're glad you found us, and I hope you'll find my book, She Said What? A Life on the Air. It's all true, but I've changed the names of the people and the radio stations and a bunch of other stuff because I'd prefer not to get sued. You can find it at your neighborhood independent bookstore or on Amazon.